Hello, I'm Ed Skimin, co-founder of Emerge Inc., a website and software development firm, and LoraineCounty.com, a local site shining a spotlight on the things that make Lorain County great. I'm joined today by Ted Esborn, Economic Development Director for the City of Avon Lake. Welcome, Ted.
Thanks so much for having me, Ed. It's great to be here, and I think it's great that you and Emerge are doing this with LoraineCounty.com.
I appreciate that. Could you start by just telling us what an Economic Development Director does in a city like Avon Lake?
Sure. You know, the most helpful way that I have to look at this is that businesses are unique actors in a city. They generate revenue through income tax and property tax. They not only do that, but they sort of provide this huge piece of quality of life. If you think about sort of any town and its character and the services that are provided by its businesses, and yet the model for local government and any level of government is really focused on residents who vote. And I think that cities started bringing on economic development directors when they recognized that businesses, these unique actors in the city, they sort of needed a voice inside City Hall. They needed the business perspectives to be sort of represented to the elected officials, because otherwise it's so easy for the voters to sort of get priority, and businesses who don't vote and employees of businesses who don't necessarily vote, they don't get as much of a say. So, what I do in Avon Lake is, I'm really that voice within City Hall that sort of speaks for what businesses in the city are trying to do, sort of what their interests are. They convey to me what it is that they need in order to be able to continue as a business, continue, generating that tax revenue. And I can then work with the mayor and city council and, the other people in the administration. So what does that look like? Certainly, if there's a business sort of has an issue, with, something city related, let's say infrastructure. So one of the things that I spent a lot of time on in 2019 was the emergency closure of Moore Road. This was something that happened with no notice. The city was forced to close Moore Road in an area where there were a lot of businesses. And so in that case, we had, probably 30 or 40 businesses in that area that needed the city to know that, their operations were really hindered by this road closure. So, a big part of my job is working with businesses in situations like that to make sure that the administration knows just how critical a situation like that is. I do also do a good deal of business attraction. So I think that goes hand in hand with having an inventory of the land and the buildings and the spaces that are available in the city. That's really kind of like matchmaking. I have my list of what's available, and I sort of go out and try and find businesses, whether small or large, to fit with what we have available. So that's another big chunk. I do a lot of marketing type things. When we have new businesses moving into the city, we have a program where we stage ribbon cutting ceremonies for them. Sure. And that's really sort of both marketing the city and sort of supporting new businesses. So I have a number of specific things in my job description, but I think those are some of the big ones. I guess the last one I would mention is strategic planning type things. So a lot of people know that in the last couple years, the city has made a couple of strategic land purchases, and I'm involved in those because those purchases happen in areas that the city has a special focus in, and sort of has an effort going on to improve those areas. So I get involved in sort of long-term strategic planning, things like that, to try and, as part of a long-term effort to revitalize certain areas.
Great. So I'm going to guess that 2020 is taken up by this coronavirus and its impact on businesses in Avon Lake. What kinds of things are you guys doing?
So, the first thing that I'd say we did, the first thing that we focused on was making sure that Avon Lake businesses had access to the information, the sort of large programs that are out there through the Small Business Administration, and the new unemployment, the changes in the unemployment law due to this public health crisis. We didn't just want to make our businesses aware of those. We even wanted to sort of, push those out and say, here, please take a look at what is available. The CARES Act, which was just signed into law. So what we did was, working with our digital media department, we created a new page on our website, and it is called Business Support, and that is our dedicated location for all the information about the CARES Act, the new changes to unemployment, disaster loans through the SBA. And aside from creating that new web page, I think that as early as, like maybe March 20th or so, we started doing webinars in conjunction with the Small Business Development Center at LCCC. I know first we did one on unemployment, and then next we did one on, the new disaster loans from the SBA. The reason that we started with unemployment, I talked to a lot of our small businesses the days after the ordered closure of restaurants and bars. Not all of the businesses I talked to were restaurants and bars, but what I found was that concern about employees was the top priority that I found among these business owners. The questions that so many of them had were, what am I supposed to do with these employees? What are they going to do? So based on that, you know, the SBDC had asked me, how can we help? I had just had those conversations, and I said, you know, I think if you can find someone who can speak to the new unemployment law, we should do that, because that seems to be what business owners are struggling with. They're asking, you know, should I keep this person on, or you know, should I let them go, because it would be better for them if they, you know, sort of jumped on this now and you know, applied for unemployment. So, you know, education was the first thing. We have a grant program for this crisis that no one really knew or thought we would have. In Avon Lake, we have a community improvement corporation. It was started about 7 years ago. It's made up of 5 non-elected residents of Avon Lake, and they started to see the closing of businesses, and they were completely energized towards providing financial relief to businesses that were closing. As luck would have it, they were putting this together right at the same time as restaurants and bars were being closed. And so they focused this program on shuttered bars and restaurants. And they were able to announce on the same day as the governor's order to close those businesses that they were going to be launching a grant program. And then about a week later, after having opened a very simple application process, they made grants of $4,000 to 12 different Avon Lake bars and restaurants. And since then, they kept the application process open, and they just closed it. Let's see, I think it was on last Thursday. I think they closed the application process. They have about that many. They have another 11 or 12 bars and restaurants that have applied for grants. They have been working, believe it or not, with the Avon Lake Waterfront Corporation, the folks that put on the Wine Fest, because the Waterfront Corporation reached out to the Community Improvement Corporation and said, we'd like to help you with this grant program. So as it happens, you know, the CIC, or the Community Improvement Corporation, probably would not have been able to fund all of these businesses at the same level as they did sort of that first round, but they're now working with that Waterfront group. It's incredible. It's 2 Avon Lake organizations sort of coming together to support these closed bars and restaurants, or at least, you know, those that are relying on takeout. And so, you know, where we are right now with that is that those 2 groups are working together to try and see if they can provide the same level of grants that, you know, this first round of restaurants and bars got. So I think that's been an incredible story. I've been thrilled to be a part of it. You know, I've really just sort of been working between the businesses and the CIC. So it's something certainly that a lot of cities aren't able to do. We just had a case of sort of right place at the right time, or you know, we had a group that was in a position to help, and just did not miss the moment, but seized it completely. And so we have about 24 bars and restaurants that are receiving grants, to help them stay afloat. So that's a really big piece that we've been able to provide to those businesses. I guess the last thing I would mention, or I guess a couple small things. We have a program in Avon Lake. It's our job growth incentive program, where all of the businesses, if you have a higher income tax revenue than you did the prior year, the city grants you back 25% of that increase. So what we're doing this year is, usually those those grant awards go out in mid to late May, and we're going to try and push them out earlier this year. It takes a little bit of administrative work to sort of figure out all the awards, but knowing that this is a benefit that goes to like all of the businesses are eligible for it. Unfortunately, not all businesses are going to receive an award every year. Unfortunately, it's kind of sometimes up one year and down the next, just because that's kind of the cycle that the business goes in. But the point is, we're going to try and get those out faster to the businesses that are eligible for them. And then, real quick, going back to the restaurants that are doing takeout now. We are just today, for the first time, recognizing and celebrating Takeout Tuesday, which, today is also on a national level the Great American Takeout 2. And so on Tuesdays, the city is going to be sort of doing things to remind people to, shop local, dine local, and in this case, get takeout. And to coincide with that, we actually reached out to those businesses today and told them that Mayor Zilka, to support them and try and help them get through this time, he's allowing them to put signs in the right of way, so that they can advertise the fact that they're doing takeout. So, it doesn't feel like enough. There are a number of things that we're doing. We're doing the best we can, but in a time like this, and I would bet that other people in my position all over the country feel the same way. It doesn't feel like enough, but every day we're trying to address some needs as best we can.
Sure, very good. How could a business get in touch with you or your office?
It's pretty easy with me. I am the Economic Development Department in the city of Avon Lake. My phone number is 440-930-4167. My email is Esborn, so that's TESBORN @avonlake.org. Either one of those, please don't hesitate to contact me.
Sounds good. Well, thanks, Ted. As a Avon Lake business, we certainly appreciate you and your leadership and Mayor Zilka's leadership. So thank you very much, Ted. Appreciate it.
I appreciate that. Thanks so much, Ed.